why are we not seeing this huge drop in home prices that has been predicted for so long, that we've been hearing for a very long time? When I first got my real estate license, it was 2015. And even, the year before that, 2014, I remember hearing prices are going to drop heavily any day. And it's been quite a while since then. We've only seen prices go up, and we're going to talk about what we're seeing right now. So if you're new here, welcome. My name's Mariah.
And I'm Spencer.
And we are a top producing husband and wife real estate team here in Oregon. And we get calls, texts, and emails from people like you that are watching our YouTube videos and are thinking about moving to or buying or selling real estate in Oregon all the time. And we love it. So if that's you, feel free to reach out anytime. We'd love to help.
This reminds me of this is probably back in 2018. I mean, that's a long time ago in retrospect for our lives, especially the amount of life that we've even lived.
Yeah.
5 years is a long time for us. Maybe for you guys it's not. But Uncle John, do you remember Uncle John? He said, well, you sell high and you buy low. And he really, really heavily encouraged us to sell our first property because he thought all the way back in 2018 that market's going to crash. It's a bubble. And he drew the bubble with his hands. He says, bubbles will pop. And I know it's not only me that's had people come up to me and tell me this, especially being in the industry as a local realtor. Everybody's wanting to know more and more information, and that's why these videos are so valuable for us to be putting out and for you guys, our audience, to fully listen to, so you have an understanding of maybe what is truly happening versus a headline being said, because right now in our media and time and day, you never know unless you're really writing deals like we are and just understanding kind of the psychology side as to where sellers and buyers are at.
We have sold 2 homes since then, since 2018, for that same reason of the prices are going to drop any day. So we need to sell right now. And not just from, one person giving us that piece of advice. This is from, as 2 realtors, hearing this all the time from so many different sources. And like I said, the opposite has happened. So I have a statistic to share that I just thought was mind-blowing. 78% of mortgages right now are plus or minus a point of 3%. I'm going to read that again one more time. And this is on a national level, but we're also sharing just our local perspective of what we're seeing as far as all of this goes. So 78% of mortgages right now are plus or minus a point of 3%. That means that 78% of mortgages are 3% or just a little higher or a little bit lower. And
2.7, 3.3.
Because of that, so many home sellers or potential home sellers, people that maybe would like a bigger house or would like to sell their home and buy something different, are thinking, you're going to have to pay me to move right now because there's no way I'm getting rid of this 3% interest rate, or whatever that low interest rate is for them, or they just simply can't afford because of the higher interest rate right now. And so that's one reason why we're not seeing this huge drop right now in home prices, at least in our area. Maybe other markets it's different, but in our area, we're just not seeing that. And it really comes down to, in a lot of cases, supply and demand. Until we get more homes on the market, I don't see how prices are going to just plummet. And with home sellers, 78%, having that attractive of an interest rate and extreme high equity. It's not like 2008 when, people didn't have that equity. We are also in the most equity rich market that we've ever seen. And so those 2 factors, the high majority of people having that interest rate, I think that really set us up for this crazy market in a different way. Crazy, not the same way. We didn't see that coming. We thought, this was a favor happening, having that 3% interest rate, but now it's setting up for this market where there's just, and again, we've been saying, I'm kind of going, rambling here, but we've been saying since I got into the business in 2015 that we are record low on inventory, and we are record low on inventory now.
1.8 months in our area.
It was low then, and it's only continued to go down, and now we're even lower. And so that's the big predicament is so many sellers don't want to sell, and they aren't forced to sell because they have so much equity in their home.
I wrestle with this thought constantly because we're living in historical times. And if you're a homeowner, you say, well, I got a 2.8 or 3.3% interest rate. Just like she said, the national average, 70% of you are rolling with that interest rate, whether you just purchased or you just refinanced in the last 2 years. That is about where you should be. But here's the catch. You wrestle with this opinion because you have so much equity in your home you buy or own, in the home you own. Right now, you have been living in this historical time to where you have $200,000, $300,000, sometimes even $400,000 sitting in equity, and you say, man, I really like my interest rate, but look at all the cash I could bring to the table if I were to sell right now. And that's been one of the biggest focuses on my sellers and their thought process. Now, what I see happening oftentimes right now are sellers selling to get out of state, move elsewhere. Maybe it's cheaper, so then they can afford today's interest rate at about 6.5%. And there's nothing wrong with that. Family, transition, work, migration, that type of thing. Yeah. But for the average Joe, moving from like one street to maybe 5 streets down, it's just kind of rare right now. And until that happens, we are going to be stuck in the mud when it comes to these higher sales prices. And it's really, really hard, and it's a struggle for a lot of people, I think. Yeah. But is having an interest rate so low hurting us, or is it really helping us? And that's one of the weirdest questions, because we all kind of want change in our lives. I mean, if we look at the psychology of things, I mean, not everybody wants to sit in the same place for 5 years. 5 years, I mean, is the average home sale turnover rate.
Is it 5 years?
Around 5 years, average? 5 to 8 years. So, I mean, when it's time for a change, it's time for a change. Mariah and I, we look at each other and we're just like, let's get out of here. And we're ready to move on.
We have a problem with selling a house too often.
And the thing holding us back truly is this interest rate in my mortgage payment that I have on it. Yeah. What I wrestle with is, man, I got a ton of equity and I don't deserve it. Yeah. So am I missing the boat? Like, is there an opportunity to sell off while I can because of that Uncle John quote? Traditionally, a bubble pops, sell high, buy low. I don't know. I really don't know what the right answer is.
I think the right answer is it's circumstantial. And at the end of the day, you can't time the market. So the right answer is what works for you, what makes sense for you financially, what works for your family, what works for you right now. That's the only right answer there is. And I mean, this is, like I said, the craziest in many different ways. A couple years ago, it was crazy in the sense that it took $40,000 plus over asking and waiving the appraisal to get any offer accepted. And now it's crazy in the sense that everyone has so much equity, but also such low interest rates for all these mortgages that nobody wants to sell. And like, it's just crazy in a very different way. But you just can't time it, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is that with all of the things that have been going on in the real estate and housing market, if you're trying to time it, the complete opposite could happen, because that's what we've seen. And another thing I think is important to know as a consumer or a potential buyer is if you're waiting until interest rates are at 3% to buy, then, because that's something I've heard from people who want to be homeowners, but they're just waiting. Down again. It couldn't. I don't think they will ever be 3 again. They might be, but I would be very shocked, and I don't even know how we would recover from that after having that again. But I do not see that happening again in our lifetime. But you just have to buy when it makes sense for you. So now let's just share. Like who does it make sense to buy right now? But also, like, who are we seeing, as 2 real estate agents who are working with a lot of home buyers and a lot of home sellers, who are we seeing still buying in this market, even though a lot of sellers are saying they can't afford to buy, and buyers are, or to sell, and buyers are saying the same thing. Who are we seeing buy?
I'm just gonna repeat kind of what I said earlier because it touched in on this question.
Yeah.
Who am I working with, whether it's a seller or a buyer? On the buyer side, it's we've been dealing with out-of-state clients. You guys viewing this video, if you're out of state, we specialize in referral based, but also out-of-state clients. So you guys reaching out to us, let us know where you want to live, and we're happy to give you more information, but also give you free home tours. Absolutely free. Being a buyer's agent representing you, it's free. You'd be surprised about the people that they don't understand that
I just
concept.
got asked that on a consultation yesterday with a new relocation buyer.
I'm making it like a point now. Every time I talk to somebody on the phone, one of our out-of-state referral clients, is, hey, my services are free. How I get paid is out of the commission of the home sale through the seller when we do write an offer. But a lot of out-of-state clients I see, and it's job migration, remote workers, remote employment. So you're able to work from home. And I mean, I am seeing more California people, to be honest. I mean, that's been a pretty big one still, the Bay Area especially.
Yeah.
But then when I talk about my sellers, it truly are the people relocating to another state as well. I haven't been dealing with many sellers that sell and then I help them repurchase a property a city away. Right. It just hasn't been happening lately.
Right.
And it used to happen a lot more.
Yeah.
To double end those deals.
I have a seller right now who's leaving to Washington, and doesn't need to purchase again. Just different situations there. But I think a lot of the buyers that I'm working with and have worked with recently are people who, like you said, relocation clients. But a lot of them are people who are relocating to our area from other states, and they are moving here for a different job. A lot of them are having a promotion, and they're going to be getting paid more here in Oregon than wherever they were at before, or they're just simply, they want to change in job, and so they're moving here for those reasons. A big thing we see is people moving here who are moving from other states that have high equity in the home that they're selling. So it's helpful, with that interest rate. It helps when you have more to put down. It makes it a little less painful. And then thirdly, a big thing I see a lot with our relocation clients is they move here because their family's here, or, friends are here, or they want, a lot of times they just want to be by their family. And that's another thing with just, you can't time the market, and the best decision is what's best for you. So if that's best for you and your family to move somewhere, be like Oregon, because you're just, you're being around family or whatever that is for you, then that might make it a great decision for you, even regardless of the interest rates. Because another thing to add on here is, I just saw someone was finding a rental. We don't work with rentals, but we are able to pass, we get this question a lot from people from our YouTube channel. We aren't able to work with rentals ourselves, but if you're curious about renting in our area, I'm more than happy to pass on a solid property management company in the area. But I just saw someone who was getting a rental, and this was almost $3,400 a month in a nice neighborhood, nice side of town, but older home. It wasn't this crazy, it was 3-bed, 2-bath. So that's the thing, is if you really consider how much am I going to be paying for rent versus how much am I buying, then when it comes to first-time buyers, there could potentially still be an area where it makes sense to buy.
I like how you're swinging towards another person wanting to purchase in today's market.
Yep, first-time buyers.
And I left out first-time home buyers.
Because a lot of what we have been talking about, just because of that statistic I shared at the beginning, has been geared toward who a lot of our clients are, is people who are selling their home and then buying another one.
A big wave, though, really, first-time home buyers. That's who's, I would say, they're coming around and understanding the priority of home ownership. Now, that's probably because they've rented for so long, or they're just out of college, or they just got set up with their job and they're making more money than they've ever made, and they understand they need to invest it somewhere. But first-time home buyers, it's a really good time to take advantage of the market. And you might say, Spencer, what do you mean by taking advantage of the market? And this is what I mean. Right now, we're able to negotiate more now than ever on your behalf as a buyer. Like Mariah said, a year ago, 2 years ago, $40,000 over ask price was not out of the ordinary, or even skipping an inspection period.
It was expected.
It was
wasn't
wild.
Out of the, yeah,
I mean,
it wasn't out of
waiving
the ordinary.
an appraisal period, or
Yeah.
I was like, oh my goodness. And so we've gotten to live through those times. I
Yeah.
personally don't want to go back to those times, because it was so hard on our clients that
Yeah.
were at certain price brackets. I mean, all price brackets were competitive, it felt like.
Yeah.
But I mean, the
Yeah.
first time single family home buyer was just getting beat up time after time. But right now, I really do feel like it's a good time for you guys to jump in the market, to negotiate, get closing costs paid for. I was talking to my lender 2 weeks ago now about what he said, 85 to 90% of his clients are getting closing costs paid for, $12,000 to $20,000 of closing costs paid for. If you don't know what closing costs are, these are fees that you have to pay upfront, at escrow, at closing, that are not part of your down payment. So that's saving you tens of thousands of dollars it sometimes, and it's all because of the way the market is geared right now. And sellers are willing to pay that if usually you're paying or willing to pay close to full ask price. I mean, it all depends on the situation and how we can manage and work that for you. But keep that in mind. I mean, a lot of buyers, they just think they're out of the market because, man, they just don't have the funds. We're closing deals USDA, that's zero down. VA home loans, that's another zero down program. Great interest rates. If you need a lender because maybe one has shot you down in the past, credit score, whatever, we'll send you ours. Let him do his due diligence for you. He's been in the business for over 25 years, and he does terrific work, and he's a problem solver, and I love that about him.
I very much agree with you saying that this is, in a lot of ways, a great market for first-time buyers because like you were saying with those first-time buyer loans, the VA loans, the USDA zero down loans, even an FHA loan where you just have less down than other loans and they're not quite as desirable for sellers. It was very hard to get any offers with any of those loans accepted. Pretty much sellers just wanted a conventional loan in the last market. And in today's market, with it being less competitive, we are seeing that. So while we're on the subject, we didn't really plan to go here, but while we're talking, since I guess this is just turning into a long Oregon housing market update in general of like what we're seeing right now, what are we seeing for buyers and what are we seeing for sellers? Like what can you expect as a home buyer or home seller in this market?
On the buyer side, I mean, we're simply able to negotiate more on your behalf. And the biggest win I could say is happening are closing costs. That is a big, big win in a lot of transactions. And besides the inspection period, which, I mean, we all have a 10, 12-day inspection period once we get under contract, there's usually more to be done pending on the property. So just keep all of those variables in mind. Our goal and priority, if you want to be in a home or home ownership, when we find you the right home, is to get that offer accepted, especially if we're competing against somebody else, which hopefully we're not right now. Now, sellers, what I see massively happening right now are overpriced listings. I mean, not to shoot anybody down, but average days on markets are going up. I mean, that is reality. Now, is that uncertainty of the market, or are these just too high price of homes for the particular areas, build, square footage, you name it? I just think things are just overpriced, and sellers have been able to get away with it. They're so low on inventory. Why not? And honestly, that's another opportunity for us as the buyer's agent, representing you guys as the buyer, if you are one, to negotiate. Send an offer. Now, we're not going to be insultive by any means, but that's our job. I'm that guy that's going to go to the garage sale and see something for $5. Hey, can I give you $2.50 for it? I'm not afraid to ask for something lower than the price tag is what I mean. And that's a trait that I feel like a lot of brokers miss nowadays, especially the new guys. They simply just only email or text. I never hear voices sometimes in a whole transaction. And I'm like, why aren't you calling me? I'm the listing agent, so usually I'll be calling them. But there's all sorts of good things happening in today's market, and I think it's in a positive light personally, and especially as we get more towards the summertime, it's just going to elevate and increase, I believe, even more, and it's going to be advantage for the buyers.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, for sellers, we are seeing a little bit longer days on market, a little bit longer, between showings. It's not, it's more common to have a little bit more of not as much activity going on versus what we were used to seeing with just like being slammed with back to back to back showings. We're not really seeing a ton of that right now. And for buyers, something I always tell my buyer clients is if we're wanting to make an offer on a property, I think it's really important to look at the days on market of the house, because if there is a very abnormally high day on market for the home, then I always suggest starting, a little bit lower than what we would have. And I think that definitely a lot of times can determine if this motivated the seller is, because if their house has been on market for quite a while, it could be because they're just really stubborn and unrealistic with the price and not willing to budge. But it could also be because, there's just not a lot of activity, and that means that they're a little more desperate.
Right.
So,
nope, that's awesome. Thanks, Mariah. Appreciate it.
Cool. Well, I think that's it for today.
I think this was a great show. It's a great, simple market update, but I want you guys to understand like the psychology of how people are really truly feeling right now. If you're just a little, not desperate, but if you're a little like turned off and just wanted to sit, I think what we need to do is continue to have that property search on. Maybe not look at every house that comes on market, look at the right one that comes up for you, but ultimately let's negotiate. Let's just see how it goes if the opportunity presents itself. Because what I can tell you is I value home ownership. I mean, I've lived it, I'm experiencing it, and it just sets you up for a financial freedom that is unmatched like anything else.
Thank you for listening in all the way. Head over to our channel. We have multiple playlists with different videos that might bring you value, and we'll see you next week.